News right now at 5, an Avon daycare facing new lawsuits from families alleging their children were sexually assaulted by a worker there.
And that worker, John Carlos Barrios Otero, is currently behind bars on sexual assault charges. Let's get right over to your chief investigative reporter, Sam Smink. She has information on these new civil suits. Sam.
There are now a total of 3 civil lawsuits filed against BrightPath Avon on behalf of 3 boys. Attorneys who filed the newest lawsuits say they are about accountability, transparency, and protecting children. Former BrightPath Avon daycare worker John Carlos Barrios Otero is charged with sexually assaulting 5 young boys between the ages of 3 and 5 during nap time. Some of the alleged incidents were caught on camera. Barrios Otero started working for BrightPath Avon in January 2022. The new lawsuits filed on behalf of 2 boys who say they were physically abused and sexually assaulted. The lawsuits do not say when. Details of the abuse are not provided, as the attorneys told the court they are of a highly sensitive and personal nature. We know Barrios Otero also filled in at the Simsbury, Windsor, and West Hartford locations, but dates he was at those locations have not been provided. The attorneys who filed these lawsuits today represent at least 83 other BrightPath families. They're calling for more transparency. The Avon BrightPath location closed 2 weeks ago. We reached out to BrightPath for a statement. A spokesperson said they were working on one. Your chief investigative reporter, Sam Smink, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Sam, thank you.